So there's a rule out there for those of you who are in accounting. How many of you guys are accounting majors? All right. A couple of you. Accounting Rule 157. This is our mark-to-market rule. And what does it say? It says a bank has to mark on their balance sheet what the asset is currently trading at in the market. Right? So if we're looking at our assets, liabilities plus equity, T account, where do these assets go? Or, well, they're assets, right? So they're over here. So if we have to mark that to the market, what happens to the value of the assets? Well, they're not being traded. So what's the market price? Zero, or nearly zero. So all of a sudden, that disappears. If that disappears off your balance sheet, you've got your liabilities here, and you've got your equity. Which one takes the hit? Your equity takes the hit. The value of your business. The value of the bank. And all of a sudden, if this becomes negative, you're bankrupt. It's over. So, what does Hank Paulson, then Secretary of the Treasury, decide to do? He says, we need $700 billion now. What are you going to do with it? We're going to buy the toxic assets. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Yeah, that's it. $700 billion. Where's it going to come from? I don't care. We just need it, and we need it now. Otherwise, look out. We've got no credit. It's frozen. It's a disaster. Look out. Dogs and cats playing together in the street. Horrible. So Congress panics. Presidential campaigns are suspended. They rush back to Washington. They pass the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or TARP. They take $350 billion and they say, okay, let's go buy those toxic assets. And they go, no, wait a minute. No, we're not going to do that. No. We changed our mind. But thanks for the money. We appreciate it. Because it was just sort of open-ended. We get to spend it however we want. And so instead of doing that, because that's not going to work, what we're going to do is we're going to take $350 billion of those dollars, so half, and we're going to stick it here in the equity side. So they start buying preferred stock from these banks. Now, preferred stock has higher seniority when a company's about to go under. Who gets paid first? Well, the creditors, the bondholders. They get paid first. If there's any money left over, then who gets paid? Preferred stockholders. And if there's any money left over from that, then who gets paid? Common stockholders. So the government then buys preferred stock from these banks. So what then happens to the value of the common stock for these banks? Because now all of a sudden someone else has a claim that's superior to them. Well, that's not a happy situation. So what happens to the value of the common stock for these banks? And we see more and more banks plummeting. We see the stock market cascading, and down and down and down it goes. What have we done? We've basically semi-nationalized the banking industry in less than a weekend. I wish it was funny. Nice national industrial policy for us on the horizon. What has the Fed done? What has Ben Bernanke done? Well, the Fed has dropped interest rates, the Fed funds rate, the rate at which banks loan to other banks, to basically zero. I mean, it's at 0.2%. Sometimes it's 0.1%. I've seen it at 0.03%. Okay, that's 0.03%. Okay, that's practically zero. But it buys more, the Fed buys more than just the government securities that it used to do. The Fed now is able to buy anything. It can buy corporate bonds. It can buy short-term corporate debt called commercial paper from anywhere it wants. Well, that's pretty darn scary. Because if I see one company failing, I'm going to buy your commercial paper, I'm going to buy your corporate debt and prop you up, but I'm not going to do anything for this guy over here. What have I done? I picked winners and losers. I'm picking winners and losers. The Fed now can loan money to anyone. Right, all the money in banking textbooks have to be rewritten because what's just happened. You might see in your macro class or your money in banking class where we have Fed tools like setting the reserve ratio, open market operations, and the third one is setting the discount rate. Well, there is no discount rate anymore. What they have is term auction facility auctions. It's a bit redundant. It works just like loaning money to whomever, but anyone can then get in on this. Companies that are not banks, that are not members, can then start getting loans directly from the central bank and prop them up. So what else has the very, very wise people in Washington determined that we need to do? Well, we need a stimulus package. Hooray, stimulus. Basically, what that was a Christmas wish list for the Democrats' campaign promises. Now, the Democrats have not had their wish list enacted on for a number of years because, well, they weren't in control of Congress, and when they did, Bush was still president, and they had to negotiate with him. But now, all that's gone. And then some people objected and they said, well, this isn't real stimulus. What we need is shovel-ready stimulus. That's real stimulus. Well, that's just stupid too. Because this is fungible. Ooh, big college word there, fungible. That means a dollar is a dollar is a dollar, and it's going to flow to wherever the market directs it. We had a policy very similar to this policy of real stimulus versus not so real stimulus, the real economy versus the financial economy. It was called the Real Bills Doctrine. For those of you in History of Economic Thought class, you can look that up. Make an awesome paper. You would impress people. The Real Bills Doctrine came about in its heyday in the 1920s and early 1930s. The Fed acted according to this doctrine of Real Bills Doctrine where they wanted to stimulate the real economy. Let's see, late 1920s, early 1930s. How'd that work out for us?
Not good.
Yeah, not so good. No. No. What we need now, or what they're saying we need now, is stimulus too. Good times. Taking another 5% of GDP from the private sector and putting it into the hands of the governmental sector is going to be very, very difficult to reverse.